Since early July, they've been trapped. 15,000 men, women, and children surrounded by ISIS. The Iraqi government believed the town of Amerli, just 2 hours north of Baghdad, was about to become a scene of genocide. Residents had no power and barely any food or water. Somehow they were able to fend off ISIS until now, and today they got help. It is the second time this month the U.S. military has intervened in Iraq to prevent a humanitarian disaster. But are those missions enough to defeat ISIS overall? We begin with Juliana Goldman.
Iraqi forces say they've liberated the town of Amerli, where roughly 15,000 people had been trapped by ISIS militants since June. U.S. humanitarian aid and airstrikes were key to breaking the 6-week siege. But lawmakers in Washington are concerned that the limited scope of the U.S. action against the militant Islamist group won't be enough to defeat it. This week, President Obama said his administration still doesn't have a strategy to attack ISIS in Syria.
It's going to require some very strong measures to defeat them.
Today, Senator John McCain, one of Mr. Obama's loudest critics, told CBS the president is either in denial or overwhelmed.
You have to have a specific strategy to defeat ISIS, and that means, among other things, understanding that ISIS has obliterated the boundaries between Syria and Iraq.
The criticism of the president wasn't limited to Republicans.
I've learned one thing about this president, and that is he's very cautious. Maybe in this instance, too cautious.
Senator Dianne Feinstein, the top Democrat on the Intelligence Committee, said ISIS poses a unique danger to the U.S. because of its money, military infrastructure, and weaponry.
They have announced that they will come after us if they can, that they will, quote, spill our blood.
Democrat Adam Smith, a member of the House Armed Services Committee, said the U.S. is still evaluating the group's threat to the homeland. He cautioned against rushing into military action.
We can't simply bomb first and ask questions later. We have to have the right targets and the right support in order to be effective in stopping ISIS.
If President Obama does decide to expand the U.S. offensive against ISIS, members of both parties say there should be a robust debate in Congress and a vote to authorize the use of force. Jeff?
Juliana Goldman, thank you very much. Another NFL player is facing domestic violence charges. Ray McDonald, defensive end for the San Francisco 49ers, was arrested at his home overnight. And it is the first test for a new, tougher NFL policy. Here's Vladimir Dudier.
According to the San Jose Police Department, San Francisco 49er Ray McDonald was having a birthday party at his home last night when police were called. His fiancée, who's pregnant, showed police bruising on her neck and arms. The defensive end was arrested and taken to the Santa Clara County Jail. He was booked for inflicting injury on a spouse or cohabitant and has been released on a $25,000 bail. The arrest comes just 3 days after NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell announced a tougher policy on domestic abuse. The new rules are in response to the case involving Baltimore Ravens running back Ray Rice. Goodell and the NFL faced fierce criticism after Rice only received a 2-game suspension. In a letter to the NFL Thursday, Goodell said any player found to have engaged in domestic violence or sexual assault would be suspended for 6 games without pay. Second-time offenders would be banned from the league for at least a year. The letter went on to say, domestic violence and sexual assault are wrong. They are illegal. They have no place in the NFL and are unacceptable in any way under any circumstances. According to a tweet from a local reporter outside the jail when McDonald was released, the defensive end claims the story being portrayed isn't accurate, saying the truth will come out. This isn't the first arrest of a 49er player. The team has had more arrests than any other NFL team since 2012. McDonald is the 10th.
Tomorrow is September 1st, and midterm elections in the U.S. are just a little more than 2 months away. Attention is focusing on several races which could decide whether Democrats or Republicans control the Senate. John, always good to see you. What should we be watching?
Well, the House of Representatives is almost certain to stay in Republican hands, but the Democrats may lose control of the Senate if they lose 6 seats that they now hold. Now, 3 of those Democratic seats in South Dakota, West Virginia, and Montana are pretty much gone. They're likely to go for the Republicans. That means to win control of the Senate, Republicans would need to win just 3 of about half a dozen races taking place on Democratic turf in states like Iowa, North Carolina, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Now, Democrats have 2 chances to take seats from Republicans in Georgia and Kentucky. where Republican Mitch McConnell would love to become leader of the Senate if his party took control, but he has to survive his own race first.
How much, John, will we see the president out campaigning for candidates this fall?
We won't see him in these tough battleground states. Democrats do benefit from the president. He can raise money and he can rally the base of the Democratic Party. And that's important in a non-presidential election year when Democrats don't turn out to vote the way Republicans do. But the president is not popular. His national approval rating is just above 40%. And in these competitive states, he's even less popular than he is nationally. So what Democrats are trying to do is they're trying to keep the elections about local issues, including the flaws of their opponents. Anything that focuses on the unpopular president might rally Republican voters, or at the very least, distract from a Democratic candidate's local message.
John Dickerson, thank you very much. All bets are off at one of Atlantic City's landmark casinos. The Showboat Casino closed its doors today after a quarter century on the boardwalk. 2 more casinos are folding over the next few weeks, leaving thousands out of work and a city in need of luck. Anne Marie Green reports.
After a 27-year run on the Atlantic City boardwalk, the Mardi Gras-themed Showboat Casino Hotel closed its doors.
When you look at those stickers that say closed on those doors, what do you think? It hurts. It hurts.
We're looking at a funeral.
Jo Mary Blanco and her husband are among the 5,000-plus casino workers who are about to lose their jobs.
Couldn't believe it, We couldn't believe it was actually happening.
Ronnie Downing works as a kitchen steward at Revel Hotel and Casino. It will close Tuesday morning.
We all will have to go through this, weather this storm. We're strong. We're used to this in Atlantic City. Whether it's an economic storm or whether it's a natural disaster, we know that we have to all come together.
I think that the real thrust of this is...
Though the city and the state are providing employment support, Pastor David McGettigan says providing peace of mind is his department.
This may be the silver lining from the great cloud of Superstorm Sandy, that we're more ready for something like this, and to let people know you're not going to go under. We didn't go under from Sandy, and we're not going under from this.
Atlantic City has been struggling to compete with the influx of new casinos opening in nearby states. Mayor Don Guardian says though the closures are disappointing, the city will go on.
If you look up and down now, you see their families. There's kids here. They're going to Steel Pier. They're going to the aquarium. They're doing a dolphin boat ride. They're going down and visiting Ripley's Believe It or Not. So the idea that maybe a few years ago is the only reason you come to Atlantic City is for gambling is gone.
Jo Mary Blanco feels Atlantic City still has a lot of untapped potential.
You just got to keep fighting and looking for other things to do. There's other things that can be done here in the city. It's not only gambling.
With both the Revel and Showboat casinos shutting down, about 5,000 people will be losing their jobs by the end of this long weekend, and that is not all. The Trump Plaza Casino is scheduled to shut down on September 16th. And Jeff, this is all happening in a county with one of the worst unemployment rates in the state of New Jersey.
San Francisco is one of the wealthiest cities in the country. It also has one of the highest rates of homelessness. But as Carter Evans reports tonight, a startup company is hoping to bridge the gap by using technology.
Some see the homeless and turn away. Rose Broom turned to her computer.
We have so much innovation and new technology, and we have so much compassion. I know that people want to help.
With her background in technology, Broom started a website called Hand Up, which gives the homeless a place to tell their stories and what they need to get back on their feet.
On your way to work every day, you walk right past this.
Yeah, it is a big contrast, but it motivates us.
Motivates her to help people like Janelle Mitchell, who at her lowest was living in her car.
You feel embarrassed, like even to look your child in the face and say we don't have anywhere to stay.
A local nonprofit secured an apartment for Janelle and her 2 kids, but to succeed, to rise above poverty, she wanted an education, hoping to become an urban planner.
She came on Hand Up to fundraise for a laptop. I mean, imagine going through school without a computer these days. It's almost impossible.
Less than 24 hours after Janelle appealed for a laptop,
my goal had been met plus more. So I was like, oh my God, are you serious?
The homeless and their needs are vetted through charity organizations, and caseworkers manage the donations. Broom says those who receive aid are saved the embarrassment of having to beg.
They feel that this is a dignified way that they can ask for help.
But it also left some of them wondering,
Who are these people helping us? Why are they helping us? And how can we thank them?
Janelle thanked her donors on her Hand Up page, and what she got in return is perhaps even more valuable than money: encouragement.
Wow, hearing your story, I have so much respect for what you're going through. Best of luck with your family and school.
I never thought that a complete stranger would want to help like they are helping me. To see that they actually want to help is like, there are people out there that have hearts of gold.
And now, even those who felt faceless in society are getting connected.
The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says the ISIL Takfiri militants have abducted hundreds of Yazidi women in Iraq and sold them to extremist terrorists in Syria. The UK-based monitoring group has confirmed that at least 27 Yazidi women have been sold for about $1,000 each to ISIL militants in Syria. The United Nations has also warned of increasing kidnappings by armed groups in Iraq, saying some of the victims have been forced to convert to Islam so that the militants can marry them. Tens of thousands of Yazidi Kurds have fled their homes after ISIL extremists attacked their villages in northern Iraq. The Kurdish Peshmerga forces backed by Iraqi troops are fighting the terrorist group in the country's northern region. And a group of Muslim leaders in Britain have thrown their weight behind a religious decree against the ISIL. The fatwa has been issued by Sheikh Usama Hassan, a leading cleric who heads a London-based anti-extremism foundation. It denounces the ISIL as an oppressive, tyrannical, and heretical group. Supporters have echoed Sheikh Hassan's call, which urges Muslims not to back or join the Takfiri organization in Iraq and Syria. The fatwa also calls on Muslims to actively oppose, quote, the poisonous ideology of the ISIL.
This is democracy in Pakistan. It's more dangerous than the military dictatorship. They don't allow people to make peaceful protest.
पुलिस के हमारे 20 policemen were injured an hour ago, and protesters are also getting injured. I can confirm that the police are not armed, and we will not fire at the protesters. Protesters have been sitting here for the last 2 weeks, and we have not made any move against them. But if the protesters attack us like that, then as government employees, we must carry out our duties.
The Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement says it has fired over 3,000 rockets at dozens of Israeli towns during the 50-day war on the Gaza Strip. The resistance group says over 60 of these projectiles were fired by the Al-Quds brigades at the main Israeli cities, including Tel Aviv, Jerusalem Al-Quds, Dimona, and Netanya. It also said they have targeted Ashdod, Beersheba, Ashkelon, and Ofakim with over 660 Grad rockets. The group added that Israeli camps and soldiers have also been targeted with these projectiles. It said Al-Quds brigades attacked Israeli tanks along Gaza borders with nearly 900 mortar shells. An Israeli soldier has died of his wounds, bringing to 71 the number of Israeli military fatalities during Tel Aviv's 50-day war on the Gaza Strip. The corporal sustained injuries in a rocket attack launched by Palestinian fighters in Gan Yavne last week. He had been involved in Israel's ground operation against the besieged region. He was at a gas station when a rocket from Gaza hit the area.
Thousands of Palestinian Islamic Jihad members took to the streets of Gaza to celebrate the victory over Israel in the 50-day war. The rally started following the Friday prayers that were held in open areas due to the bombardment of dozens of mosques by the Israeli Air Force during Tel Aviv's so-called Operation Protective Edge. During the 7 weeks of non-stop bombardment, Israeli forces killed and injured thousands of Gaza civilians, among them hundreds of children and women. As they praised the Palestinian armed resistance against Israel, Palestinian Islamic Jihad leaders thanked the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Lebanese resistance movement Hezbollah for their unwavering support to the Palestinian people. The resistance movement also said the Israeli army is weak and that Israel will be defeated again.
Israel was broken during this war, and the resistance fighters that you see standing around you are determined to fight against the Zionist enemy until the complete liberation of Palestine. We kept fighting until the last minute before the start of the truce, and we will continue to train and equip our forces until the next battle with the enemy.
The Islamic Jihad's popularity has been on the rise after its refusal to recognize Israel, its adherence to armed resistance, and its determination to liberate every inch of the historical land of Palestine. During the war, the Islamic Jihad's military wing, the Quds Brigades, fought fierce battles against Israeli soldiers and fired thousands of rockets, including long-range ones, toward Israel.
Zionist soldiers were running scared for their lives as we confronted them. They tried to enter deep into our territory, but it was not a cakewalk for them. Many Israeli soldiers were killed and injured.
Many here say the Palestinian Islamic Jihad has proven itself as a force to be reckoned with during Israel's so-called Operation Protective Edge. The movement, along with Hamas and other Palestinian factions, taught Israel a harsh lesson.
Now, Palestinians slammed the Israeli army's announcement of new land grabs in the occupied West Bank, calling for international action against Tel Aviv. The chief Palestinian negotiator, Saeb Erekat, says the new move is another example of crimes committed by Israel against the Palestinian people. He urged the international community to hold Israel accountable for its crimes and raids against Palestinians both in Gaza and the West Bank. The U.S. State Department, that is, also slammed the move as, quote, counterproductive to peace efforts. On Sunday, the Israeli military said 400 hectares of land in the southern city of Bethlehem will be seized. An Israeli NGO says the new plan has been unprecedented in its scope since the 1980s. Israel has seized tens of thousands of hectares of Palestinian land since 1967.
For the time being, the situation in Gaza is calm, following Israel's 50-day-plus war, which has left a trail of destruction in the territory. The calm in Gaza coincides with Israel's new schemes against Palestinians, though this time not in Gaza but in the occupied West Bank. Israel says it plans to grab some 400 hectares of Palestinian land in the West Bank for settlement expansion.
We were surprised in the early hours this morning when Israeli officials and military gave warnings and put signs in many areas in Wadi Fokin, to the northern, southern and western ways of the village, declaring the appropriation of thousands of dunams for the benefit of the expansion of 3 settlements that surround the village.
The anti-settlement group Peace Now has slammed the move as the biggest land grab by Israel in Palestine in 30 years.
We don't remember such a big announcements in the last 1 or 2 decades. This is a stab in the back of Abbas and the moderate people in the Palestinian Authority. Instead of strengthening the Palestinian Authority versus Hamas, Israel is showing its other side and actually in a unilateral move expand settlements activity and destroy the chance for renegotiation with the Palestinian Authority.
The Israeli radio said the move was made in response to the alleged kidnapping and killing of 3 Israeli men in the area in June. The notice published by the military gave no reason for the decision. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is under fire in Israel over his handling of the Gaza war. Netanyahu's critics say he has been defeated in his war in Gaza. Observers believe that the land grab planned by Israel is actually aimed at appeasing Netanyahu's critics. A Palestinian Authority spokesman has condemned the Israeli land grab, saying it will cause new friction between Tel Aviv and the Palestinians after the Gaza war. Israeli authorities have issued many eviction orders which have left large numbers of Palestinian families without home in the West Bank. Israel has come under intense international criticism over its settlement activities, which the global community regards as illegal. At least on the face of it, the issue has caused tension between Tel Aviv and its staunch ally, the United States. Washington has frequently called on Israel to stop its settlement activities on Palestinian land to pave the way for peace between the two sides. The U.S. has, however, taken no practical and meaningful measures to make Tel Aviv stop its land grab. To the contrary, Washington has on many occasions shielded Israel against any binding resolutions at the UN Security Council.
Firearms enthusiasts hit the range at the Palm Beach Shooting Center in Florida.
We're in a very pro-gun friendly state.
Manager Chuck Papp says Florida's gun owners now have the force of a new law on their side. The state legislature recently extended its controversial Stand Your Ground law. Floridians can now fire warning shots when they feel in imminent danger.
As long as people take it seriously and they exercise their right responsibly, we have no issue with that whatsoever.
The new rule was devised after a woman was initially sentenced to 20 years in jail for firing a warning shot during a domestic dispute.
Everybody always had the visual of grandpa in his rocking chair on his front porch with his shotgun. A kid walks by and he fires. No, yeah, that's far from the truth.
I think it's a stupid idea.
Florida State Senator Christopher Smith fought to defeat the warning shot bill.
People in Florida love their guns, and they're using them at an alarming pace. And so to pass a law to give you even more reason to use a gun, I think is a very, very bad idea.
Here in Florida, one of America's most populous states, more than 1 million people have permits allowing them to carry concealed weapons in public, the highest number in the country. The state's gun laws were brought to international attention following the 2012 shooting of unarmed black teenager Trayvon Martin. Critics linked his killer's acquittal to the Stand Your Ground law, and subsequent attempts to enact tougher controls on firearms have died in the Florida legislature.
They'll take a case, any case, and use it as an example to get more gun laws out there, to give more gun rights out there.
But supporters of Florida's laissez-faire gun rules say plenty of safeguards are in place. Gun stores must carry out background checks on those buying firearms. And with the legislative elections just a few months away, even gun control advocates admit tighter regulations are unlikely in the near future.
Germany's second strongman race of the year has taken place in the medal fantasy land of Ferropolis, with around 2,000 people going for a run in the country. The competitors had to jump, clamber, swim, and run through 11 different obstacles in this industrial wasteland, or city of iron. The challenges included mud, cold water, car tires, straw bales, and foam. After 2 circuits of the course, Knut Holler, 4 times winner of the Strongman Run, was again the winner. He finished in 1 hour 33 minutes. The fastest woman was Frederike Fiel. Her time was 1 hour 46 minutes.
In the UK, dog owners are said to be killing their pets with kindness. With Britain's canines now some of the fattest in the world. And as RT's Andrew Farmer reports, it's not just portly pets that might need to look at their diets.
Bruce the boxer is fat and is trying to shed some pounds. A lack of exercise and poor diet saw him balloon in size to almost twice his ideal weight.
For breakfast, he had his Weetabix honey and goat's milk every morning, and then his dinner in the evening, and obviously the few treats of biscuits and bonios and chews.
He's in good company though. Research shows over half of Britain's dogs are in fact obese. That's up 15% in 4 years and makes them some of the fattest in the world. A quick straw poll of our own helped explain why.
What treats do you give them?
Chicken fillets, little chewy sticks, anything they can get their hands on actually.
I have a bit of fish and chips put in the bowl after we finish.
He eats the same as us. We don't give him dog food.
Vet Julie Jones is only too aware of the problem, but says often dog owners aren't. Feeding their pet just 1 cup of tea is the human equivalent of eating a hamburger. And being overweight can severely affect a dog's health.
It is their pet and they love him dearly, and I generally say you kill him with love.
They get joint problems, okay? Then they get heart problems, and then it's difficulty of breathing.
But surgeries like Julie's are offering help. In fact, 3/4 of UK vets now have obesity clinics. Chubby canines, including Bruce, are being put on a diet of wholesome food and exercise.
Well, at 55 kilograms, Bruce here used to be known as Rochester's heavyweight boxer. He's now down to 49 kilograms, but the thing is, he's not the only saggy dog story in the UK. There are currently 4 million dogs that are overweight.
And animal experts don't expect that figure to fall fast. Dogs are like their owners, or so the saying goes. And with over 60% of Britons now obese, that is becoming the new norm.
But individual owners, you can do something about it fairly quickly. But again, I think just like with human obesity, now it's got to a point of being so common, it's going to take a long time to deal with in society.
For Bruce, though, there's no looking back. This mutt is losing his gut at an impressive rate. For him, at least, it seems, nothing tastes as good as Slim feels.